There should be a car parked in your driveway. There should be clothes with tags on them. There should be shoes in boxes. There should be stuff that you should see with this amount of money being spent. Where is it? And that's when the light bulb went bing. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money.
With nothing to show for it.
With nothing to show for it.
Let's be honest about recovery.
The rewards, the challenges.
Let's talk about our failures. We are flawed people, after all.
Let's challenge the stigmas that weigh us down.
Because while most of us are looked at, few of us are seen.
Let's talk about addiction.
And how Christ overcomes our weaknesses.
Because we are loved.
Because we are loved.
Because we are loved.
We are because we are loved.
Hi, my name is BJ Broussard.
And I'm Angela Broussard. I grew up knowing the word, but not living it my whole life. I let prescription pain meds dictate my life for a little while. Once I recovered from that, I replaced it with another addiction to alcohol. After a traumatic event in my life, I opened the door and the windows for the devil, and he wreaked havoc in my life. When I decided it was time for a change, I decided to go to the Home of Grace for Women, and Jesus met me there. My life has been forever changed.
Hey there, and welcome back to the Jesus Loves Addicts podcast. I'm Kathryn, and this is Paul. Today we're going to be talking with Angela Broussard and her husband BJ from Lafayette, Louisiana. Angela and BJ have been married for 18 years, and they have two amazing sons, Ethan and Drew. We're going to hear from Angela on her struggles with addiction, but we're going to hear from BJ on what it's been like from the spouse's point of view.
Yeah, thanks so much for being here, BJ. By the way, we love it when both sides of the equation are here because both are so important, right? We get to dive into all of that. So the first question I have before we get into the details of the past was, did you walk through the entirety of her addiction with her, or was she already in it when you met? Like, what part of this journey did you step into that on?
Walked through it.
Okay.
Sometimes I feel like I may have been the reason why she became... but definitely walked through because I think I was kind of smoking weed before we even met.
Okay, so you dabbled as well. Yes. It's not strictly. Okay. Well, I love what you just said there, and we are for sure going to revisit that because that's one of those really important pieces about the family side, right? When you just said, sometimes I felt like I was the cause, right? So, and we'll get into how you hear that too, but one of the things in your introduction, Angela, that I heard you say, which I thought was interesting, is that so you grew up in a family where you knew God. That was not a revelation. That was not part of your coming out of your addiction. That was already there. So tell us a little bit about what life looked like for you prior to the addiction.
My dad was a Baptist preacher most of my childhood life. So I grew up knowing I was in church. Sunday school, Wednesday afternoons, Sunday afternoons, vacation Bible school. I grew up knowing it, but not living it per se. I mean, when I was younger, it wasn't an addiction thing when I was younger, but then high school came and, I dabbled in a few things and I met this guy right here. So
y'all met in high school?
We met in high school.
Okay.
I was in high school. He was graduated already. So, he smoked weed and did, other things that I wasn't aware, like I didn't know about because I barely even drank in high school. Kind of looked at him and I was like, where's the line? Is it going to stop? What's going to happen? But he was living his best life. So he was like, you're not going to get me to stop. If you want me to stop, then you might as well
leave, right?
Right. So my motto became kind of like, can't beat them, join them. So it's kind of what I did was I smoked. It wasn't a whole lot at first, but then started smoking weed. And then we decided we were going to get married. I mean, 3 years?
6.
No, we weren't together for 6 years.
No, it was 3. You're right.
3 years. 3 years. We got married because I was like, I don't want to live in sin anymore. So I still had the background of not wanting to do those things.
Sure.
It was still they always say a parent's prayers always lead out to when you're older.
Yes.
Your conscience was being spoken to somewhere.
Right. So
at any time, like during high school when you were starting to dabble, if that was something you had never done, was there ever any confrontation noticing by your parents, your family, your friends, anybody?
No. Me and my mom had a rocky couple of years in high school. So, I moved out my junior year of high school with my brother, which probably wasn't the best thing, but, he lived in the front yard. So me and my mom had got an argument and he was like, just come live with me.
Is it just the two of y'all?
It was just two of us,
Okay.
yes. And he's older, 3 years older than me. And he partied, he drank. So I got used to that also. So it kind of just became my lifestyle.
Right.
My junior year of high school, senior year of high school. But it wasn't, it didn't take over me. I was able, I was still in college. I was, high school, then college. Moved back in with my parents probably after my senior year, whole thing. But we got married, 3 years after? We hadn't moved in together until we were married, and moved in the front yard of my parents' house. And then 3 months after we got married, we got pregnant for our first. So then that was kind of like the time, all right, it's time to kind of slow it down, the weed, drinking,
Let me pause you for just a second. Sorry, because we're already, and I want to ask, so you moved out in your junior year of high school, right? So not completely unheard of, but also doesn't scream comfortable environment at home. I mean, was there tension for a long time there? Was it just everything was great until junior year and that was enough for you, so you moved out? Or was it a kind of a tense family situation anyway?
It wasn't tense per se with my parents because, it was just kind of, they were still married, still going through the motions. My brother was already moved out. Just, I guess, being a teenage girl, arguing with my mom. We already had previous, childhood from then, little things, way more to go into, not in a few minutes that we have, but nothing like detrimental. No,
Okay.
Nothing detrimental.
Did you feel the weight as so like as a dad? I often joke and say I'm glad I'm a dad of a son rather than a girl, because if I was the dad of a girl, I'd be a wreck, right? Because that's how, right? So did you ever feel, here you are, the daughter of not just a dad, but a dad who's also a preacher. Was there extra weight on you for that? Did you ever feel that aspect of it, or?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't too bad. My dad was probably my freshman year of high school. He wasn't preaching any longer. Some stuff had happened with my mom, with the church, and he was asked to resign. So he decided to stay with his wife in that situation. So it wasn't, when high school came, it was like kind of free range.
Yeah.
Even though I was still under his thumb. He didn't let me do a lot of things, but of course I lied a lot. So I would sneak out, not really sneak out, but kind of, I'm going here, go there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it was just normal.
Okay. Well, I think some of that tension
teenage
was because we were together and was like, okay, well, what are you, what's your intention with my daughter? You were spending a lot of time with me.
Right. Yeah.
I was like, are you still going to live with us? You're going to move in here? Y'all going to get married?
Because I would stay at his house because I was already moved out. And growing up, it was no boys sleep over. You don't sleep over anywhere. Can't go in your room. It was very strict growing up. So when I moved out and I would stay at his house and he would come stay at my house with my brother, my dad didn't like that.
Sure.
At all. So, no, it wasn't. I wouldn't say it was not too much. You always get ruled as the bad kid because you're the preacher's kid because they lift you up higher than everyone else. But no, it wasn't.
Okay, so you weren't running away to escape anything. No. It just, there were some minor tensions. Doesn't sound like out of the ordinary, but you had this opportunity and you took it as a young person. Okay.
Right.
That helps. Thanks. So here you are with your brother moving forward. You moved back into your parents' house after high school, and that's where I kind of cut you off.
moved back in with my parents, and then a couple of years we got married, and then that's when we got pregnant.
But you moved out, and you moved in with him first.
So that house moved, and then we put a trailer in that same spot.
Okay.
I moved into it by myself for a couple of months.
Okay.
I guess by myself. And then,
Not really by
then we
yourself.
got married.
Okay.
And then she just moved right in. Her stuff was already in the house. We
Yeah.
we just
Yeah.
got
Just
married
kind
and
Made it
she came
official.
home with me.
Yeah.
Yeah, because he lived with his parents until he
Okay.
moved out after we got married, or
All right.
before we got married. But yeah, he lived with his parents, and his parents didn't have any rules, so I stayed there.
Okay.
So when you get married, had you already taken on the if you can't beat them, joining thing? Were you both using at this point?
Yes, we were.
Okay, so that had already taken place. So.
We were. It was, I say just weed, but that's what I was doing, was just smoking weed at the time, occasional drinking. But I grew up in South Louisiana. They have parties for everything, festivals, kids' birthday parties.
They drink at funerals.
Funerals.
Yeah.
I mean, anything. It's, so it was always justified growing up. My parents didn't drink that whenever I was growing up, but everyone else, it was South Louisiana.
When you
things
say
to do.
other things, what other things beyond marijuana and alcohol?
Weed, pills, a little coke. I mean, it was just
dabbling.
it was party.
Right.
It was more of a party thing. It wasn't anything
that you had to have. Okay.
Yeah, it was never, and that was always my thing growing up was I'll try it, but I don't want, we're not going fully there. It's not happening. But I dabbled with him, but I never really, weed was the only thing that I really continuously did during that time. And of course, when I got pregnant, had our oldest, I had stopped for a while. I don't know.
Years.
Yeah, it was years. Started again. I don't remember when it was and why.
Drinking.
Well, yeah, and then
You mean cigarettes?
What?
And weed? Is that what you're saying?
Yes, I had quit all that in between there. And then we got pregnant again. About 4 years after Ethan?
Mm-hmm.
Had a miscarriage. That was traumatic. But I was bound and determined, I'm not going to start smoking again. I'm not going to start doing anything because I want to get pregnant again, have another kid because we wanted to. It was probably 3 months, another 3 months. Got pregnant again for Drew. And then we had stopped for a good while after that. Then decided, mom and dad needed to go out. So then it all started over kind of again, but not as bad as it was before. Because of course we had kids. We couldn't.
When you drink, you need a cigarette, right? So it was that's what brought you back to smoking was drinking.
Right.
Back then.
Right. Yeah. Because
I smoked the whole time. With when you got pregnant and quit, I was still smoking.
Right.
And you weren't for years.
So you're back to just having kind of drinks on dates.
Right.
Right? Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Very occasionally.
Yeah.
Alcohol was never a problem. Never. I mean, I say never a problem. Of course, drinking is a problem, but it was never an addiction
for
me
until it
at
was,
that time.
Until it was. Okay.
Until after the prescription pain meds. That's when I had oldest's birthday. I had fell on a hoverboard, fell on my back. Didn't notice anything because I was a little heavier, lost some weight. Then my back started bothering me. I started going to the doctor. I had herniated disc and bulging disc in my lower back. So it was, I mean, you got 2 kids. It's horrible. I did the injections and what else? Physical therapy. Doctor said I would have to have surgery within 4 to 5 years. He recommended pain management. And I worked in the medical field. I knew how it ended. I was like, no. I told him it was probably almost a year that I put it off. I was like, no, I'm not.
I remember the conversation.
I know how it ends. People get addicted.
Yeah.
I don't want to do it.
And I'm like, you're in pain. Just if you're in pain, take it. Because I kept fighting the fact of her, it can't be that bad. It can't be that bad. It doesn't really hurt that bad. And then finally it was, it hurts that bad. And I'm
It's hurting her.
Not realizing what kind of spiral, and she knew what kind of spiral it would take. And I'm like, if you're in pain, just go. And
yeah, I went probably about 6 months, short months in to pain management, which doesn't seem long, but it took over. Prescribed wasn't enough. So I started going to the streets looking for pills. He was very frugal with our money, of course. I thank him for that now, which hated him back then for it. But he knew every penny that I spent. So I got credit cards. I have excellent credit, got credit cards, started using that to buy pills. I got up to
thousands,
$20,000
roughly.
And how long? In a year?
In a year.
Yeah. Half of it.
Half of it, because that.
Because we paid the debt off, and then
we found out about it. I don't remember how the second time we were refinancing our house. That's how you found out about it. First time. He found out about it. So I passed it off, manipulated as a money spending problem.
Because I needed your license. I said, hey, I need your license and your social because we're going to refi. So I have to turn all the information in.
Yeah.
And I think that's what led, you were nervous because you were like, oh man, he's going to see all this debt. Where'd it come from?
Yeah.
Right.
Let me ask you a question, though, because it's not, when you say you had to go to the street, it's not every street dealer that takes credit cards. Were you going to get cash and then taking, I see. So you're
That's
cashing out
kind of
your
where
credit
it kind of
card.
would go up to, because the percentage they would charge you for taking cash out. Yes. So I did.
I got you. Okay.
Yeah. No. I mean, they did. It was Venmo at the time, I think.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. They did take that.
Okay.
But I did. I racked it up. 20. He found out, then passed it off as money spending problem, which was not unbelievable because he knew I like to spend money.
Yeah.
At first I was like, you spoiled brat. Like, well, how can you be spending that much money? Yeah, it was crazy. So we paid it off.
Yeah.
Paid it off.
Your reasons for that is you wanted to protect your using.
No one knew.
Yeah.
I mean, he knew I was doing I was on pain management, but no one knew I was a functioning addict.
There were signs.
Activity.
I had friends, right? And so she would say, hey, I'm out, so-and-so. Yeah.
It was the second go round.
Before you found out about the money, like the first time, were there signs? Other than you knew she was going to pain management and you knew that previously she had been worried, like, hey, I've seen how this can go.
Yes to that question and no to the second. I didn't know, maybe love blind. I just trusted her.
We were busy too. I mean, we had two small kids.
Yeah.
We both had full-time jobs.
Both on career paths. So we
didn't see each other a lot. Yeah. Kind of just going with the flow. Emotions.
So y'all paid the debt off the first time?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
My problem still continued, obviously, because no one knew. I started with the credit cards again. I gave it maybe a month in between. I was like, just die down for a month. Then he won't know. So I started over again. Started actually hiding money, like from my direct deposit, from my checking account, from work. I would open a whole nother account that he didn't know about. So I would put a little bit in there and then the rest in our joint account. So then it was just lie after lie after lie. Then it got too expensive. I was like, okay, I'm back up to $20,000 in debt again. What do? I had a friend. She was like, heroin is so much cheaper. Why don't we, you want to try it? And I was like, I don't want to go that far. I can't.
I'm not that way. Yeah.
Her boyfriend was doing it. So she saw him, using. So.
And then when she said heroin, I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. But she was like, no, you don't have to shoot it or you can just snort it. And I'm like, okay, so that makes justifying it.
It's not injecting it.
Right. I'm
it's
justifying
not the same
it.
thing.
Right.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
So, I tried it for the first time and it was way cheaper. And not everybody, now they ask me, were you scared? Like, what if you got the wrong stuff? Well, the guy I was buying, my drug dealer, was doing it too. So I would just go over and I'm not a suburban mom, but come on, I'm going in the hood, getting drugs, and then I thought I was above it. So I'm demanding you, where are you? How dangerous was that? How dangerous? So I did that for probably about 3 or 4 months. 3, 4 months. Everything is kind of fuzzy on dates.
We've talked about dates and times, and it's a blur.
It's fuzzy. So it was even to the point where when my drug dealer was out of town, I was finding it from other people, and then I was getting other stuff. I don't know
what it was.
I was like, what? Because I trusted him. It was 3, 4 months I was getting from him. So I'd get it from someone else. And what I was getting was I didn't know what it was.
Color.
It was black tar heroin. And I'm like, what is this? So I was scared. So I I should have just threw it out, but I gave it to a bum on the side of the road. I mean, I just kind of, I was like, you're welcome, like I was doing him a favor. And then I contemplated, COVID started. I was in the medical field, and all this time I'm in the medical field. I'm a functioning addict, functioning. I had contemplated faking COVID so that I can detox to where no one would know. Like, it was playing through my mind. Like, I'm like, I'm going to do it. I'm going to, which
so you
was.
knew you were at a point that something was fixing to have to break.
It was. I threw my hands up. I'm like, God, I can't do it anymore. I don't want to do it anymore. Like, it's my kids. I was physically there, but not emotionally.
Yeah.
At all.
As a nurse, did you have access to opiates where you worked?
No, I wasn't a nurse. I was a laboratory scientist.
Oh, okay. I'm
so
sorry,
no
just
medications.
Okay, so not okay.
No medications. I had a few friends that would get me some. Okay. But no, it wasn't. Not. I was doing them at work. Of course, I was doing them 24/7 at this point. Oh, and prescribed Adderall. It's prescribed. It's okay.
Yeah.
I didn't need Adderall. Like, who? Probably about 75-80% of people don't need it that are prescribed it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So in between that, the heroin, of course, makes you sleepy, and I was still doing pills, mind you, because I still had
you still had pain management,
right? Snorting Adderall in between there, keep myself awake, keep it functioning, going. I don't know how I survived that long.
Yeah,
just
kind of doing a modified speedball. You're being up and down by that's really
And then we had some friends who lived down the street who they would come over and we'd eat supper and stuff. And Angela was always late. She got off at 6. She was 8:30, 9 o'clock at night. She's still not home, and they're like, "Where's Angela?" And I'm like, "She's running late." And they're like, "Man, you said all this credit card debt. Like, what? There should be a car parked in your driveway. There should be clothes with tags on them. There should be shoes in boxes. There should be stuff that you should see with this amount of money being spent. Where is it?" And I'm like, "What?" And that's when the light bulb went bing. I'm like, wow, that's a lot of money.
With nothing to show for it.
With nothing to show for it. And I'm like, wow. What? And it wasn't more like a light bulb. It was a sledgehammer. It just, and I'm like, wow.
Now were you still dabbling yourself?
Well, no. So at this point, I never had an addictive personality. However, I smoked a lot. I could let it go whenever I wanted. So I quit. No big deal.
You sound like every addict out there, by the way. When
Correct. Right. But there were times when I thought, can I quit?
Yeah.
Because it was a long time. But then it got to a certain point where our kids were growing, our careers were moving, we were really going in the right direction, and I just didn't feel like
it fit.
It didn't, and it wasn't worth it.
It didn't move up with you.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It wasn't where I was in
our kids were getting curious,
life. Yes,
because we were always outside in the shed.
Yeah. What are y'all doing?
Right.
Yeah. Walking in,
and man cave with TVs and all that.
So that's when
stuff.
you were still dabbling, but at the point she's talking about in her journey now, where these credit cards for the second time are getting racked up. At that point, you were not dabbling.
Still smoking weed.
Weed only. Okay.
We were, and then I kind of used it as if it's going to help her get off all this other stuff, then why not? It's just weed, right? And we all know that's the gateway, the smallest gateway to all the other stuff.
Yeah.
And it was just always my excuse of like, well, look, we'll just smoke, and then that's all you're doing, right? That's all we're doing,
right?
So that's where, but it did get to a point where I said, okay, no, if I'm going to be here for you to be clean, we can't do anything.
Yeah.
No drinking, no smoking, no nothing.
When you were at the point where your friends kind of helped bring that to light, like, hey, buddy, it's not adding up, and then it hit you, were you still smoking at that time?
No.
Okay.
What? No, at that point, it was a battle between us. It was like, okay, look, we have to quit. Baby, I'm more than ready. At that point, and it was just an excuse, but I felt like I was smoking just for her.
Yeah,
because it was a thing that we did together mutually. And I said, Angela, I don't want to do this anymore. Well, we'll quit next week.
Yeah.
And then we'll quit next week. But then it got to a point where I said, no, I'm done. I can't smoke anymore. And through the credit card stuff and our friends telling us this, I started
investigating in the pills, my prescription pills, and noticed, there's some different ones. These don't match because I was still buying not as much pills because I was doing the heroin, but I was still buying pills too. And he noticed something's off. Like you had this many this day, now you have this. So then finally it was my way out. I was like, you know what? Here, I'm going to tell you what I've been doing. This is what's been happening. This is what happened last time.
So you were hoping that this guy would fall at that point.
I was. Okay. I was. I was rock bottom at this point. Mm-hmm. It was my rock bottom. Everybody's is different. Mm-hmm. And I was in the medical field. I couldn't go to a rehab. I would lose my license. So I was like, okay. Well, he was like, well, we're just you're gonna detox it out at home. That's how we're gonna do it.
Work for a great company. They were like, dude, go fix your family. Go take care of your family. So I said, look, I'll be back whenever I'm back. And yeah, we sat
I was
at
in
home
job change. So I was at a different job. I told them I had COVID. I had to stay out for a couple of weeks. It was probably about 2 weeks. 2 weeks.
I'd like to take a moment to recognize a major podcast sponsor. Today's episode is brought to you by America's Thrift Stores, your go-to option for decluttering and giving back. You have a closet bursting at the seams or a garage that's seen better days? We've got the perfect solution for you.
That's right. America's Thrift Stores makes it easy to clear out the clutter and make a positive impact in your community. Whether you are cleaning out your wardrobe, downsizing your living space, or just looking to give back, America's Thrift Stores has you covered.
And here's the best part. You've got options. Schedule a hassle-free home pickup, drop off your items at one of their convenient donation sites, or swing by an America's Thrift Store to donate in person. No matter which way you choose, you're making a difference.
Every donation you make to America's Thrift Stores directly benefits charities in your area, such as the Home of Grace and other fantastic organizations dedicated to helping those in need.
For example, donations made to America's Thrift Stores in southern Mississippi help the Home of Grace provide support and assistance to individuals facing drug and alcohol addiction. Your contributions make a real impact on their mission to provide freedom from addiction through Christ-centered recovery. So, not only are you decluttering your life, but you're also helping build a stronger and more supportive community.
It's truly a double blessing, so what are you waiting for? Clean out that closet, clear out that garage, and make a positive difference in your community by donating to America's Thrift Stores.
Visit America's Thrift Stores online to schedule a home pickup, locate a donation site near you, or get directions to one of their store locations.
America's Thrift Stores, where giving back never goes out of style.
So let me ask you a question, because you've done this great picture or painted this great picture of the progress of the drug use, but you're raised in this home, preacher dad, talk about how that's your conscience is getting rubbed at occasion. So I'm just curious, what's the parallel here to the using emotionally for you? I mean, at this point where you're hoping the sky falls in and they finally get me help, are you just full of, I'm just imagining shame and guilt
Pride.
And, what's happening on the emotional side for you?
Pride. I didn't want anyone to know I had a problem.
Yeah.
I was supposed to be the good child.
And here you are buying heroin off the street.
Right. Actually, when I told my brother, which I get choked up about, told him about it the first time, he got upset with me.
This is the brother who uses, though.
Well, drinks.
Drinks, okay.
Drinks.
Not heroin.
No, never really. He never did drugs. He said, not my Angela, like that's not supposed to be you. So pride.
Yeah.
Pride stopped me from stopping a whole bunch.
And
then I started
for help.
becoming numb. So I was just going with the flow.
Emotionless.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Gonna go till it ended.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just keep on trucking. I was already too deep and too prideful to ask for help.
So how did you respond to this admission of the second?
This was the first one.
No, the heroin was the second.
So when I found out about the pills and stuff and she started detoxing, I had a guy at work, because, you're with the people you work with 40, 50 hours a week. So I had a couple guys, I'm like, dude, look, this is what's going on. I'm freaking out. And he says, you just wait. Because he had a pill addiction that he recovered from in rehab. And he said, you just wait. Anything you want to know within about 3 days or so, she'll tell you. She'll just tell you. And I said, really? And I said, okay. So I'm counting the days. I'm like, all right, 1 day, 2 days. It was sure enough, on day 3, she's, detoxing. And she's, I said, is there anything you need to share with me? And
yeah, because I didn't tell you about the heroin.
No. And then you were like, just spit it out like it was nothing. And I'm like, wait, what?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's something about that word. It's hard to hear.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, all your energy is going into seeing what you want to see, and now you're seeing what you need to see, and that's a harsh wake up for the codependent side, right?
Yeah.
So, is this the gateway to your first treatment?
No,
not yet.
This was detox at home for 2 weeks.
It wasn't treatment. It was just at home clean up, just get sober,
start.
And in your head, I'm good now.
Yeah, most definitely. We started going to church for a little while, and after that, I was like, I'm good. I got it by myself.
That was easy.
Got it. That was nothing. The detox was horrible.
Yeah.
By any means, I was like, I would never, ever again. Then had back surgery. I was like, okay, we got to do it. Had back surgery. I recovered with no pain meds because I wasn't going back there. It wasn't going to happen.
You weren't going to risk that.
No. So recovering with no pain meds, it was rough. But I mean, it's been a miracle. My back has so much better. I haven't had any problems since then. And then life went on for a little while. We went back to kind of just, doing our own thing here and there, raising the kids. Life was good. Then.
Well, were you more aware of finances and
yes.
what level of accountability did change that you held her to after watching her go through withdrawal from
it was
pills and heroin?
I had put my credit on the freeze.
Okay.
Yeah, we cut all the credit cards up, froze everything.
Okay.
Life
And
360.
had access to.
He knew where I was, what I was doing when I was at work. It was, accountability.
Yeah.
That's what it needed to happen.
Did you resent that or welcome it?
It was about 50-50.
Yeah. Okay.
I welcomed it at first, and then I resented it.
Yeah.
Because then I started drinking. It wasn't.
Started with a glass of wine.
Started with a glass of wine. I think we went eat out one night, and I was like, I can have a glass of wine. He was like, no, you can't. And I was like, yeah, I can. Like,
I'm not an alcoholic. I was just addicted to pain pills.
I was just addicted to pain pills, and that wasn't my fault. Yeah, that was my motto. And he was like, oh, whatever. So then it started cooking, glass of wine. Then it started, I was drinking the whole bottle. And then he was like, wait, didn't you just buy a bottle of wine? And then it kind of.
Then it became, look, you're substituting one addiction.
And then we started arguing
another.
about that. No, I'm not. I know what I'm doing. I'm fine. I can do it. I'm not getting drunk, which I was, but he didn't know. Again, the manipulation started all over again.
The functioning addict started all over again. All of it.
Like it never left.
Yeah. But the money, I couldn't see her spending the money, which was
what
throwing me off.
For the alcohol?
Yeah.
Because I was doing it while I was grocery shopping. So
yeah.
He wasn't
and
looking at
gas.
receipts.
Remember you told me that story?
Yes, and that was after the traumatic event. That was when it really got
prepaying for fuel,
down
buying
and dirty.
alcohol in the store.
Yes.
But it looked like gas.
Just gas.
Because it's on the credit card, so it looks like, $40, $50. She
and you think you're doing your part to check and make sure.
Yeah, I'm like, she's
and
not
I'm
spending
the
money on it.
Overall.
Which means now you're thinking you're crazy. Like maybe I'm
slick.
I'm accusing her and I feel bad.
But that's what happens.
Yes, which was why a lot of the fights were, you're drinking. I can tell. No, I'm not. Couldn't smell it. Vodka. It was.
Yeah.
She hid it very, very well.
Yeah, I did.
Oh. Not well enough. I mean, you knew it was happening, right? So they always think they're doing a better job than they are. But I mean, clearly you knew. I mean,
the blacking out started because I would drink so much, and I was still prescribed. I'd started Adderall again because that
wasn't your problem.
It wasn't my problem. I was prescribed it. So I did the Adderall, and it would the Adderall would work so long, and then all I've drank at that time, because when you're on Adderall, the alcohol wouldn't affect you right away. When the Adderall would wear off is when the alcohol would hit me. Mm. And then I was there, and there's sometimes he would tell me that I cooked supper, I did all these things, and I just I don't remember. We would argue until the point of he couldn't even look at me. I'd wake up the next morning, I'd be like, "Good morning," and he's like,
"You're crazy."
No.
Yeah, I was like, "You're crazy."
No.
This isn't. This
and
isn't
you have
normal.
no recollection.
Yeah.
None. I mean, we.
What was this length of time? Like the pain pill basically like took off in a period of 6 months. So when you started drinking, from that glass of wine at dinner that wasn't going to be a problem to blackouts and back on Adderall, how long would you say that was?
Man, it's fuzzy.
It's a blur.
It's fuzzy.
I would say the entire, from when she started going to pain management and actually started using pills to this point, was about a 5-year time frame.
Yeah. 4 or 5 years.
I'd be willing to bet that from the time you picked up that first glass of wine, though, because there's these breaks to where you are now, was probably not a super lengthy period of time, right? That probably did not take long.
No, that's probably about a year and a half.
Yeah.
Year and a half. Because we lost our nephew tragically in a motorcycle accident.
Now, is this the traumatic event?
That's the traumatic event.
So, yeah. What
it
happens?
was rough.
This is your nephew?
His brother and his sister-in-law's only child. So at this point, my kids had to grieve. They were close to him. My husband, his nephew, had to grieve. I never had a chance to. Kind of try to help them through the drinking hours.
Yeah.
Numb it, because I had to help them. And
yeah.
It got significantly worse after that.
So it was serving a dual purpose at this point. It was keeping you strong for them, supposedly, and it was allowing you to postpone your own grief. And then later became probably the way you grieved?
It all intertwined together. And then I started working a whole lot more. That became an addiction. Working and drinking. I was drinking in the mornings before work. I was drinking on my lunch break.
No one at work suspected?
Yes. And that leads to infidelity in our marriage. We had that. I cheated on my husband. And all entwined with drinking, work, everything, bad decisions, blackouts, so many regrets.
So, and thank you for being honest enough to admit that, and for you to be able to be here through that. So I'm assuming that it's entwined, as you said, with the addiction. I'm assuming there's some emotional affair that starts first, and then you go, or was it related to the drug use? And we don't need to,
It was just kind of, I spent a lot of time with this person. So it was, I knew my secrets, drinking, knew the problems that I was going through. It was kind of like a work relationship, but not.
Yeah.
Turned into just sex.
Yeah. And was that person also using?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yeah. So and that was kind of came out after the whole situation of the drinking and all of the things that happened. And then trying to hide that because I felt guilty for that. Then the drinking got
a lot worse.
A lot worse.
Yeah.
A lot.
So, I keep going back to that word shame because, again, from somebody who's raised with the seeds that you were raised with, I can't imagine that you're not having this inner argument, right? Conscious argument, just like, what am I doing? Who am I?
Most definitely. But the drinking would stop it.
Yeah, there you go. And that was your magic pill. Yeah. So if you don't mind, if we could just park here for just a minute, we don't need to relive the whole thing. But it is something that lots of couples whom one or both are engaged in substance abuse experience is infidelity. Can you guys just briefly talk about the process of getting back to this point where you guys how did you work through that? Because that's got to be a miracle unto itself.
All all of it unfolded probably about a week or two before I came to the Home of Grace, before I went to the Home of Grace. It kind of all intertwined together. Everything kind of unfolded. And he could probably share his, because it was horrible for him when I left.
Sure.
But it was mutual agreement. I didn't know where he stood. I didn't know what was going to happen with me. I was going away for 3 months, and it was going to be rough. Mainly more hard for him because I felt like I left him with the kids, but it all worked out. It all worked out.
When the infidelity, when that bottom fell out, is when, it's like, I have a drinking problem. And I'm like, huh? Like I knew she was, but at this point, because it was so much all day, every day that I didn't notice.
Yeah.
The functioning side of her took over. I didn't notice. So when she said, I have a problem, I'm like, explain your problem. Like, what are you talking about? She's like, I'm drinking in the morning. I'm drinking at lunch. I'm drinking. And I'm like,
all day.
Really? And
it wasn't a beer. It's not just beer here, beer there. It was just straight vodka. Straight vodka. I mean, I'd buy pints. I smoked cigarettes too. So stopping and getting cigarettes, I'd buy the vodka. And I started hiding the bottles everywhere, like empty bottles, because I couldn't put them in the trash. He would see them. And then I started forgetting where I hid the bottles.
Yeah.
When she came to the Home of Grace, it was about a week's time frame, week and a half, when the bottom fell out and was like, well, if you have a problem like that, then seek help.
So was that your whole response to the infidelity, though? I mean, did you immediately come to say, okay, well, we need to help you? Or was there an angry moment for you? Or was there a time where you thought, oop, this might be a step too far for me? Okay.
Super confused, because we've been married for, since 2006. It's been a long time.
High school sweethearts.
I trusted her. I didn't think fidelity would ever occur.
I didn't ever think I would have either.
Right. And I was more shocked than anything. Was like, wait a minute here. And then it was clear to me that it was a byproduct of the
what
true
was
problem.
Going on.
Yeah.
And your mind plays tricks with you, because it says, no, it wasn't a byproduct. It was the reason.
Yeah.
But you have to learn how to battle through some of those things. And God is what helped me through that.
Now, were you already, since you mentioned that, is your faith already intact here, or did this come?
No. It's not that I fought a relationship with God. I always knew God. I always loved God, but I just wasn't close to God. We had a conversation a couple of weeks before all the bottom, found out about the infidelity and her going to Home of Grace. We had a conversation, and she says, BJ, I hate God.
Yeah.
And I says, well, I can't really have this conversation with you because I don't agree. So it's
this was during the traumatic event.
Yes, okay. And of course she was drinking, and she was in one of those moments.
Yeah,
and she was, in those moments, she didn't really care what I said. It just, and so I said, I stop. I can't talk about it. I can't have a conversation about you hating God and me saying, well, it's okay, because it's not okay. Right. So we just kind of cut that conversation completely. And in my mind, I'm thinking, wow, this has gotten pretty bad.
Right. For me to say that, because I was always trying to convert him. Hey, come to church. Let's start going to church. Let's start, because that's how I grew up.
Yeah.
But
and God's plan, God's timing. We talked about it on the way here. God's timing on how, she took that opportunity to get better. And in that time, went to the Home of Grace. And being at Home of Grace, when she went and had the counselor she had, it allowed her to be closer to God.
Yeah.
As she's there were questions for me because it was such a short time that I didn't really know, well, was it infidel? Was it just cheating? Was it an affair? How, so there was a lot of unanswered questions for me that I didn't really get, because when she came to the Home of Grace, our conversations were 10 minutes once a week. So it was very limited. And it was, a lot of confusion, but I just found a way to, instead of dwell, I found a way to go to God and just keep asking for God's help.
Yeah.
I've got 2 kids. I have a good job, but I'm barely able to keep the structure of my house together, right? And I just don't know what to do other than just keep turning to him.
Yeah.
Right.
And with her turning to God and me turning to God all at the same time, God's timing was
Always on time.
Yep.
Yeah. So this crisis in your marriage is really a springboard to a different level of faith. Is that fair
Big
to say?
time.
So you're going through your own crisis at home, turning toward him. You're at the home of grace with a counselor that obviously serves as a bit of a guide for you back there. What is that
My
like?
counselor had went through the same situation, not the addiction, but the affair. So it shined a light on how, for me to understand how he felt about it.
Yeah.
How I should respond, what he's going to expect from me when I get home, what he's going to expect from me now if he's going to work it out. So that helped tremendously. And still, she's still a shoulder to lean on.
Yeah.
Anytime we have any issues. But it was perfect. We did counseling while I was there.
Okay.
So she was able to marriage counsel us together.
So you did do some marital counseling.
We
Okay.
did. We
that
did.
was
We
going to be my
definitely
next
did.
question.
After she knew I was good enough and knew the time frame as to I was ready to tell everything.
Yeah.
The truth. You can't heal what you don't reveal.
Amen.
So everything she would ask me, tell me when you're ready. When you're ready, we'll do it.
Yeah.
And I still talked to him. We still had like a few, and then that's I was like, I'm ready.
Yeah.
So we had a first one was over video, and we did that. So it was.
We actually had 2 counseling sessions while you were at the Home of Grace, which was super helpful. One thing that I had to live with was you can't make your present the past.
Mm-hmm.
You have to leave it there. And for us to work our relationship and be together and love our children the way we need to and do everything that we need to do the right way, I can't keep flashing a certain card out of my back pocket.
And using it.
Right.
I've got to leave the past in the past and let the present be the present.
Sure.
And so
that was a fear of mine because anytime he would always throw it in my face.
The pain.
Remember when you did this? Remember we did this?
Yeah.
trust issues.
Right.
Trust issues.
So
I'm sure.
While I was praying it out, asking God, please, I don't know if I can do it if he would keep throwing it in my face. I don't know if I can. And then, he showed up and he showed out because our marriage is probably stronger than it's ever been.
Mm.
But now we have God at the top.
Amen.
Yeah.
We both have a personal relationship with God. The more we go up, the closer we get to God, the closer we get to each other.
Mm-hmm.
So that has been amazing.
Yeah.
And a story in itself, whole past all of
Yeah, a
addiction.
story within a story for sure.
Right.
Well, thank you guys for taking that moment because I think that's, again, so important for folks to hear because it is a byproduct of addiction oftentimes. Yeah. So this trip for you, though, and correct me if I'm wrong, is not your first. It's your first but not your last. Is that correct to treatment, or was it just?
This was my only.
This was your one and only. Okay,
My one and
so
only
I thought
trip.
I misheard that then.
So this was my one and only. Yeah.
And you passed your year recently.
Yes, I made a year on August 7th. I've been sober for 15 months, and
we both quit smoking.
We quit smoking cigarettes. We have been totally sober.
Yeah.
And it's been great.
Yeah.
It's great. I gave up secular music. It helps a lot. What goes in comes out.
Yes.
Amen.
That's definitely a game changer for me. Definitely, my kids are kind of like when I say I don't curse anymore. So if I say like the D word,
if one slips, they're like, oh,
yeah.
And I'm like,
who are you?
Yeah.
So it's been quite a change at home. My youngest got saved while I was in the Home of Grace too.
Oh, that's awesome.
My oldest brother is the one who actually saved him, so that was nice.
God, he showed up, he showed out. He
and look to
restored
God
everything
and how God works. And with Drew and how he got saved, it was
Drew's your son,
my
The
second.
youngest.
That's the youngest, right?
The youngest.
The youngest, yeah.
He woke up one night in the middle of the night crying. I don't know, I'm afraid. I know God, but how do I know that I'm going to go to heaven? And this was at 3-4 o'clock in the morning. So I kind of wake up, I talk to him a little bit, And in the midst of this, my oldest brother was dropping off I have 2 brothers. He was visiting in Florida. He left his phone in the car. So he calls me randomly at 4:00 in the morning saying, hey, where's, I need you to call Brian. Well, Brian is a Southern Baptist, really religious person. And so when all this went down, I said, Drew, listen, you're asking if God, how do you know God's in your life? Mm-hmm. I just got a call that put us with Uncle Brian for us to have a conversation. So this is God saying, hey, I'm here. Yeah. Look for the signs, and this is one of them.
That's awesome.
So it allowed us to have a good conversation and allowed him to be saved. So it was a nice moment.
And how old was he?
He's 12.
This
at
was
that time?
10-ish, 11.
Wow, wonderful.
It was awesome.
7.
Yeah.
Before we go any further, let's take a minute to address the man or the woman listening to today's episode and wishing for a better life. Or maybe addiction has completely overtaken a family member or a friend.
You are not alone. As you may know, the Jesus Loves Addicts podcast is produced by the Home of Grace, a Christ-centered addiction recovery program in South Mississippi with over 60 years of experience.
The Home of Grace has residential programs ranging from 30 days to 12 months. With 2 separate campuses for men and women, they are fully staffed with caring individuals who want nothing more than to guide you to a life of recovery.
Services include individual and group counseling, marriage and family counseling, classes, workshops, GED, and workforce training, all grounded in biblical principles.
And because of donations from the community, the cost of the program is incredibly affordable.
Thousands of alumni from all across the country can tell you there is no other program in the world quite like the Home of Grace.
If you want to start a new path to recovery, don't wait. Speak with their admissions specialist today. Visit homeofgrace.org or call 833-55-GRACE to talk with someone.
That's 833-55-GRACE. Call the Home of Grace today. Do you feel like, and I always ask this to people who are raised in a home, that a lot of times we can know intellectually of God, like you could know intellectually of anything. But in looking back now and weighing your journey, do you think, well, this may not be the greatest way to ask it, but do you think that you were actually saved then, or did you just have a head knowledge then, and then really kind of moved into relationship with him at this point in your life? Or do you think you honestly were saved and there was just a long wayward journey for you, right? We all fade at times, don't we?
No, I was saved.
Okay.
I believed, I knew and I felt it.
Yeah.
It's just the journey it got rocky.
Yeah.
It got rocky.
Yeah. We stepped
But now
outside.
having a personal, intimate relationship with God, it changes everything.
Yeah. Amen.
It does.
Wow. And then your parallel journey here at home on your own, right? You're going through that on your own, but not really. You're saying you guys are having marital counseling, so there's lots of overlap in your spiritual walks too. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was a moment when we first met that when I had some friends over, there was a buddy of mine crushed a Lortab, put on the dresser or whatever, and he gives me that nod, like, "Hey, go in the room." She caught that nod, and I go in the back room, and she comes in. She's like, "What are you doing?" And she takes it off the table. I'm like, "What was that?" She says, "You need to make a choice. I'm not doing any of this. Okay, you smoke weed, but if you're gonna do other things, you need to make a choice. It's me or that." And it was a point in time when I was hanging around the wrong people.
Yeah.
Was young. And I said, "No, I choose you." In my heart, I did.
Yeah.
So when all this stuff, folded out, where now it's on the other end, where Angela's struggling with a certain situation, I felt in that moment that happened, that she didn't turn her back on me. So I felt almost obligated through my marriage, through our kids, through God, that I can't just walk away. Sure. I felt like I had to help her be a better mom, help her get through this situation, because it was important to not only me, but our children.
Yeah.
And in that moment, I always go back to that moment she did that because it saved us.
She did that. What that?
When that moment, she wiped off that stuff off the table and said, choose.
I gotcha. Yeah.
I chose correctly.
Yeah.
You chose correctly back then.
And I knew even through those moments of her struggling, I still chose correctly.
You did. You still chose her.
Yes. I wasn't going to walk away in the worst moment of our lives. I was going to try to be a rock.
Well, that is like just really commendable, right?
Yeah.
I mean, there's some bright spots in this whole journey. Angela, were there some aha moments for you in treatment that kind of, like, what were the highest hurdles you had to get over there?
Oh, man, I got through a lot of hurdles while I was there. I had to, I mean, you're with other women, going through different things, but the same thing. So they all have their issues. Everyone has their own situations. Right. So you're able to lean on them, but not fully because they're going through their own stuff. So it kind of taught me to just internalize a lot and depend on God. He's the only one that was going to fix it. He was the only way to go when I was there. So that built my relationship a whole lot. I had to drop the pride because there was things that I had to tell him that I didn't want to tell him. There were things that I had to tell my family members and friends that didn't know because, I mean, I hit it well. Yeah. I hit it well.
Well, I like when you said it, you cannot heal what you don't reveal.
It's true. You can't. So I had to be honest with everyone.
Yeah.
That was hard. I had to humble myself.
Amen.
It was.
Did that include
one of the hurdles
with your peers though in treatment? Were you able to open up and kind of?
Oh, most definitely. We had the other last week at church service. Our pastor talked about everyone has locks and keys. I have a key that may unlock your lock. You have a key that may unlock some of my locks. And there was with these women, we all unlocked locks.
That's awesome.
People had.
There was keys and locks all over that building.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it was definitely, we were very unified at that with us, even some going, some coming. It was definitely a very, very humbling experience.
Yeah. What I love that you're talking about now is, there's a verse that even non-believers often will say and just don't necessarily realize where it comes from, but it's that verse, the truth shall set you free. And that truth is raw, it's unprotected, it's vulnerable. And I use that word intentionally because I want to ask you, in working with clients even now, I try to explain the importance of vulnerability. How would you convey to somebody that concept, the importance of vulnerability, because we want to protect ourselves.
Right. Oh man. If you're not vulnerable and you keep those things in, then it's almost like you're having to start your healing process all over again. Because you sit there and I've laid it out all on the table. I've been totally vulnerable and you haven't. Then when it comes up, because what's done in the dark eventually comes to the light. So when something else comes up, you're having to start all over again. Then you're putting non-trust again in people's minds that have started to trust you again.
Yeah.
So being vulnerable it goes hand in hand with being humble, dropping the pride. You an open book. I'm an open book now. And a lot of people when in day to day now that don't know my story, like starting over because I'm not in the medical field anymore. I've chosen a different career path. I'm actually doing part-time with a friend right now. And when people ask me, what happened? Why 15 years in the medical field, like a change. I'm open and honest. I can open a book and they just kind of look at me like, what?
Yeah.
Like you're okay with that. And it's you have to be open.
Yeah.
You have to be transparent in anything you do.
Absolutely.
Anything, especially with your loved ones. I have to be totally transparent with him. Like a lot of times he won't even ask me like, hey, why'd you stop off here or do this? Like, because gas stations were my enemy when I came back.
Yeah.
Like he would tell me, when you need gas, let me know. I'll put gas in. I don't want it to trigger you. Now when I stop and I go in and I got like the other day, what did I go in and get? The store. I went and got maybe a slice of pizza and a fountain drink. So I didn't put it with the gas. I put a separate receipt, kept my receipt, and I was like, hey, the charge, I stopped. I got a soda and a slice of pizza or something. I have the receipt. And he's like, okay.
Yeah.
You know, just letting you know. So being transparent and vulnerable, it's very key into anyone, even if you aren't an addict.
You know what I love about that is that accountability is so important to a sound, healthy walk, period, and then especially in recovery, right? And so just a few minutes ago, you were talking about how there was accountability after one of your episodes, and initially you liked it, but then you started to resent it because I was drinking again, right? And now here you are inviting it. Right, you're not even waiting for the question.
Yeah, you're
to be
calling
there, right?
first,
You're which is so great. I love that. What a evidence of the turnaround, right? That's neat. And do you feel? How does that make you feel? Do you feel more secure in that?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. From the moment I picked her up from the Home of Grace, we went on a little trip as a family. Just right from there, we had bags packed. We just went, and I could just tell the glow. She was different, like, you know. And it was God.
Yeah.
Was filling her in a way that I've never seen before. And yes, are there moments when I'm like, you is that the old Angela? You know, but she's amazing. She's kind of, she is the person that I picked up, and she has never kind of veered away from that.
Awesome.
So her sobriety is the most important thing to her, and it's important to me.
But let me ask you about that. And again, there's that honesty about, there are times, right, where you're saying, which Angela am I saying, right? Even though you're trusting or you're moving forward. So in your marriage, in your walk right now, what would you both say is something that what I don't want to do is leave this impression that we go through treatment, we make this change, and lo and behold, life is perfect.
Everything's
and
great.
The sunset we go. What would you say are some of the things you're currently working on and really intentionally putting energy into?
It's a choice every day. It's not all rainbows and flowers and all. What do we work on every day? I was never a morning person. I'm 39 years old. The Home of Grace changed that also. I came home and he's like, are you really like, because
that was different.
Crabby.
That was different.
Well, this morning, I'm working on that too. This morning I was a little crabby because I was nervous about today and kind of just on edge. I was letting the devil get to me. So this morning I woke up, I prayed, rebuked it. I was like, it's not going to happen. He got up grouchy, kind of came back, dropped off because I was going to drop off the kids before, and he was a little. He had his underwear in a little knot this morning.
I said, "I'll take him to school." I said, "Somebody's a little crabby this morning." And then she automatically was like, "Oh, you're right." She noticed it without even the little things that she does today that she didn't do before.
Renewing your mind every day too. You have to renew your mind. You can't. In situations like that, I'm like, okay, no, Satan, it's not going to happen today.
Yeah.
Especially not today. Because this was important to us. We're not going to be crabby all the way there. It's no. So we prayed together and,
we worked through marriage is work.
Yeah.
Addictions aside, to be in a relationship with someone and have children and raise kids and go to work and do these things, it's work.
Yeah.
And if you're not putting in that work, that relationship won't work anyway.
Yeah.
What else do we have to work on? He actually, we had a whole class at the Home of Grace, Healthy Boundaries. And I've set up a lot of those, being home. And the other day he got this, which is an example, he got kind of upset because we were talking about, we were at a friend's house talking about something. She's having some issues. She's another woman of God. So we kind of, we tell each other like it is from our heart, through God. It's never any ill feelings. So I was telling her, how I felt about the situation and, comparing how I daily forgive people in my life also still. And he got upset about something, and probably don't want to mention what it was because, but he got upset. And I told him, I was like, well, you know what? Okay, I got to set up a boundary with you then. Like this, and then he got all like hurt. His feelings were hurt.
A boundary with me,
right? What? And I was like, no, it's healthy. But then I didn't explain my boundary. I was like, okay, you speak out of anger. He used to do it so much back then. He's been working on it. So I was like, you spoke out of anger last night. So that's the boundary we're going to have to set is when you're upset, let's just stop it right here. We're going to stop for a second. And then we're going to revisit it whenever you're feeling better.
Yeah.
And he gets upset with me sometimes. Not in a good way, because he's like, why do you have to call it out like that? But that's kind of being transparent.
It's definitely healthy work. It's definitely healthy work. It's the work we put in today isn't about, worried about what she's doing or worried about what I'm doing. What are you doing on your phone? Or there's no insecurities.
Yeah.
It's surprising, with somebody going through rehab and coming home, and then year and a half later, here we are. But it is
we still have healthy. A few little things. Like he ordered some screen protectors, another example, the other day, and they were privacy screens. So he put it on his phone. I was like, well, I need another screen protector. I don't have a privacy screen one. And he was like, well, okay, you don't want me to have a privacy screen. That's fine, because you want to be able to see. I was like, cool. I ordered regular ones on Amazon. So it was kind of those things we still work on.
What a great answer as you guys formulate this, because I'm just sitting here thinking that really what's being worked on here is finding that place of health in the marriage. Where are the boundaries going to be? So I love that. That is the journey on the other side of addiction, right?
Yes.
Moving from what we could arguably say is a boundary-less lifestyle, right? In addiction, anything goes, and we can argue that, to a place of, hey, what's going to make, but in that boundary-lessness is also insecurity, great insecurity for everybody, right?
Well, like that screen protector thing, it was a trigger.
Sure.
From the past, and I wasn't even I was giving it up, and she said, no, if it's important to you, I'm not gonna put it on.
Yeah.
Those things that look, I know the Home of Grace, maybe not all of your listeners know about Home of Grace, but it is a place where God truly finds a way to meet people in their, in a time of need. Home of Grace allowed Angela, in my eyes, to learn how to cope with not only the addiction, but having people in her life who may have insecurities about what happened and things like, and she knows how to deal with them in a way that I didn't know she would.
Sure.
Right? So that's been a huge help and a blessing in our marriage, that she learned those coping mechanisms at the Home of Grace. It's a beautiful thing.
Well, and also like the quick ownership. It's super simple. You said, well, somebody's crabby. A year and a half ago, you probably would have been super defensive because you probably needed to be defensive. Instead, it was like, oh, yep, you know what? You're right. I am. Yeah. And that was it. It didn't have to become something more.
No.
It's just that quick ownership, no secrets, no nothing. Like, yeah, that's me.
Right.
And it's not so much a humbling because you're so used to being in the practice of just taking the ownership. It's not like a hard thing to do anymore. It used to feel like pulling teeth. Right. And now it's like, no, this is what I do. You're right. It's me. And I'm sure you do the same now. Yeah. Like, nope, you're right.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's, the point though, is that there is safety in boundaries, right? Mm-hmm. And so oftentimes, in addiction, that kind of rebel spirit might seem hip or cool or whatever, but it is unsafe. It is insecure. And so on the healthy side, finding that place of security, finding that place of peace, I just love that's where you guys are in terms of finding that for yourselves. So, Guys, thank you so much for sharing your story and where you've come from and where you are. And, I just want to speak to one thing, and that is the vulnerability, because it's so important, right? So many of us, probably all of us, right, myself included, we have those areas where we are so guarded that we can't receive help there. That's the problem with being so guarded, is that nobody knows how to help you. I get it. We all get it. But the reality is, and certainly from the biblical standpoint, the truth will set you free. Vulnerability will set you free. Of course, you're not going to go on a street corner with a megaphone and tell everybody everything, but finding those people, finding those core people that you can be raw and open with and honest with and truthful with, so that you can have that accountability, so that you can have, here's the real word, so that you can have the freedom. Right? There's freedom in that vulnerability, right? There's a wonderful secular statement, and I'm not going to go on forever here, but it is meaningful to me. There's a wonderful secular slogan that says, "You're only as sick as your secrets." And the reality is that is speaking to the heart of that verse, that the truth shall set you free. When you're at a place where you can shed the secrets, then you are in a really, really good place. Might you get hurt? Yes, you might. But my question to you would be, is there any way that you can possibly think of that you will get through this life without getting hurt? And the answer to that is no. None of us get out of here unscathed. So if that's going to happen, let's make reasonable risks. I would rather risk being vulnerable with 10 people, get hurt 7 times, and walk away from that with 3 solid people in my corner, and I'll take that as a win every day. Guys, risk that stuff. Step into it. If you're struggling with addiction, there's help for you. Guys, thank you so much again for being here and being the catalyst, right, to bring up these truths, right? Such a great thing. And guys, just so you know, Jesus Loves Addicts is going on a 2-week hiatus. This is the end of season 1. We're really excited to be, gearing up for season 2. So we'll be back in 2 weeks. Remember, JesusLovesAddicts.com. You can go there and catch up on all the past episodes. We're on pretty much any venue where podcasts are shown. So catch up on all that good stuff, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. Take care.